Hello and welcome to 3 looks using my collab collection with Bella Beaute Bar, Coalescence. So I will be doing 3 looks with this palette, of course, but I will also be pulling in a couple of the single shadows that are launching alongside this collection. And this is kind of a follow-up video to the reveal video that I put out, which was the one prior to this. And if you haven't already watched that, I highly recommend going and checking that out first and then coming back to this video, because I do go a little bit into like the concept and theming of everything, which does matter a lot to me with this collection specifically, so highly recommend checking that out first. Now in this video, I wanted to do 3 looks to help you get to know the palette better, of course, and also maybe help you decide if you wanted to pick it up. But I also wanted to do 3 very different looks to kind of showcase all of the things that I was talking about in my reveal video of how I would use this palette, like all those techniques that I was talking about. I wanted to incorporate them in the looks in this video and show you how this really is my perfect everyday palette that you can take in so many different directions. Look number 1 is what I was wearing in the reveal video, and it's what I consider kind of my signature look because it's in a shape that I use all the time, it's with colors that I gravitate towards all the time, and it's just something that I feel really comfortable and pretty in while still being very colorful. Look number 2 is a bit more on the neutral side. It's a bit more simple, easier to do, and it also incorporates shade cascade. So I layer one of the special sparkly topper shadows over the satin shade in the palette. And then look number 3 is what I'm wearing right now, and I show you how I like to incorporate both cool tones and warm tones in the same look, as well as colorful tones and neutral tones. And aside from this video, I do plan to do loads more looks using Coalescence for my short form content, both here on YouTube Shorts as well as on TikTok and Instagram, because I am on those platforms as well. Instagram is actually my primary platform, and I do actually already have one look up already. It's using the single shadow Aurora as well as mattes from the palette, and it's a much more like bright, punchy, colorful look if that's more your speed. And just as a reminder, Coalescence launches this Friday, August 29th at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and it will retail for $69, but it is code eligible. My affiliate code is Noopur, so it will save you 10% on this palette as well as anything else on Bella Beaute Bar's website. And I think that's all I have to say, so let's get into the 3 looks. So for this look, I'm going to be doing what I consider kind of a signature look of mine, using colors that I tend to gravitate towards frequently. These were some of the first colors that I wanted to put into the palette, and I'm going to be using like a very familiar shape of eyeshadow for me. And this is the look that I was wearing in the reveal video for Coalescence, so you already know what it's going to be like if you have seen that video. So I'm going to be starting with the shade Libra over here. And just in case you're new to my channel, the way that I do my tutorials is I'm going to be showing you the application on this eye, but I'll already have the step completed on this eye. That way you know what I'm working towards, especially because I'm a build and blend girly, so sometimes it's not immediately obvious what the end goal is. I'm going to start by running this through my crease, and this is more of a pastel shade, so it does require building up, and that's why I was like, you know, I'm a build and blend girly, and even though this is my palette, I still, like, this is the way I'm most comfortable doing my eyeshadow. So I dipped in again, I'm gonna do the same thing, and you can see that you can get like a sheer wash of pigment, but you can also build it up to be this vibrant. And the thing with this purple is there's a lot of white pigment in it. It is quite pastel without being like a true pastel, because I'm actually not the biggest fan of pastels on my skin tone. I want them to be quite saturated. I feel like that's what looks best on me. And the thing with a lot of purples is I always get like compliments when I wear purple eyeshadow. People think it looks good on me because I think of like the contrast with my warm olive undertone. But because of that, when purples are not saturated enough and don't have enough white pigment, they can go quite dusty and muted, and I really wanted a purple that was going to be properly, vibrantly purple, and this one is just, it's perfect. I'm also bringing it down just a little bit on the lid at first. I might add some more later, but I'm going to keep it in the inner portion over here. I also love that this purple is like properly purple. It's not pink, but it's also not too cool tone that it has like a lot of blue in it, so very happy with how this turned out. Also running this on my lower lash line, and here especially it takes a little bit of building up because I don't have eye primer down here, of course, but I feel like it still does show up as properly purple, like it doesn't go too dusty down here. Next, I'm going to pick up the shade Dusk to deepen up with, and I'm actually starting on the lower lash line with this shade, first on the outer corner over here to smoke things out, bring it in a little bit, and then start feathering it in this direction to kind of map out the shape that I want. I don't know why, but I've been doing this lately and it really helped me from keeping it like up here and not bringing it too low. Then I'm switching to my detailed blending brush and I'm gonna pack this shade over here on the outer corner. I probably picked up too little this time. So I grabbed some more and I'm really gonna pack that there at an angle like this. And then slowly start blending it outwards like this, following that shape that I created so that it doesn't, like I said, go too low. Once I'm happy with the blend out here, which I might work on it a little bit more, I'm gonna also start bringing it into the crease because I do want these two purple mattes to blend a bit over here, create like a shade in between. I don't want too much of that pastel purple peeking out here in the crease. Grabbed even more on the brush, and this time I'm gonna like bring it in a little bit more and kind of fill in the gap over here because I am kind of laying this down as a base for the shimmer. And now with a wiped off brush, I'm going to just soften this blend over here again, just a little bit. I really, really love the contrast between this like slightly dusty, deeper purple and the more pastel purple in the crease. Like just that combo of bright and muted together makes my heart so happy. Now I'm gonna switch over to the shimmers and I'm gonna pick up the shade Agni over here. And Agni is a holochrome, as you can see, and it's on a slightly gray base, which makes it very versatile. You can use this with the neutrals as well, but that's why I wanted to lay down some colorful mattes on my lid, just to like give it a colorful base, I guess, underneath. I'm laying this over my entire lid, and I'm not using like a glitter primer or anything like that. You can if you want, but I find that Bella Beaute Bar shimmers have enough emollients to them to stick down without a glitter primer, and none of the shimmers in this palette are squishy or oily or anything like that, but they do have like enough of that creaminess to where they will stick on top of mattes on their own without a glitter glue. Also, I don't know if you clocked it, but my nails are matching my look. I specifically wanted to wear these nails when I filmed this look and the reveal video because like this is ILNP's Fairy Dust nail polish, one of my all-time favorite nail polishes because I adore this colorway. It's got that same like dusty purple base with like the pink to orange to gold shift and a ton of hollow in it. So I'm matching my nails on my eyes. And now I'm switching to a brush just to get into the crevices of my eye where my fingers can't reach due to my long nails. And also making sure I take this eyeshadow up till the crease, and I usually like to tap it out over here so that there's not like a super harsh line where the shimmer ends and the matte starts. And same thing over here on the outer edge. Now when I do this type of look, for the inner corner, sometimes I like to go matchy-matchy and use a purple shimmer in the inner corner that'll just flow right into the crease shade. And other times I like to do more of a contrast. This is usually what I end up doing because I just want to use like as many colors as possible, and I'll do like a minty green shimmer like this, and I feel like that really pops. But I know that I want to use Balance, this shade, in another look in this video, so I think I'm going to use Harmony just so that I can use as many shades in this palette as possible for this video. I'm putting the shade in my usual spots, so over here in the inner corner, and then dragging it over here into the lower lash line, and finally, as always, dragging it up through the inner swoop to meet the mattes in my crease. I love this shimmer so much. It is definitely like my perfect purple shimmer, and because the base is so sheer, it does work really well in the inner corner over here without giving me any kind of like cast. But if you do have a lighter skin tone, that purple base might show up a little bit, so just, you know, test it out. Here's the final look, and I don't think anyone's going to be surprised when I say that I really love how it turned out because these are colors that I gravitate towards all of the time. I've done like some variation of this look so many times in my life, and I just like, these are colors that I feel so pretty and comfortable and confident in. Like anytime I don't know what I want to do, I'm probably going to use colors like this. And I love like the warm, fiery, orangey yellow shifts of the shimmer against the purple, cool toned mattes. Like that contrast is everything to me, and I can't wait to switch you over to Sparkle Cam so you can see all of the shifts and the hollow sparkles and just all of the magical everything. Here's Sparkle Cam so you can see all of those beautiful shifts, the texture that I was talking about, and I think in this lighting the shifts are really obvious. It goes from a pink to an orange to a gold, but you can also see all of those beautiful hollow sparkles. I really, really love Bella Beaute Bar's holochrome formula. It is so good because it doesn't like overtake the eyeshadow. And yeah, and of course the purple shimmer in my inner swoop is also beautiful. It has like a slight multicolored sparkle effect, but you can see like blue and purple, and it's just the way everything combines is so, so magical. So for this look, I'm going to be doing a pretty simple look, but it's also going to be a shade cascade, which in case you missed my reveal video or you just don't know what that is, it's just a term that I use to layer eyeshadows. Most of the time I use it to refer to layering shimmer eyeshadows, but sometimes I mix textures and formulas and things like that. But today I am using it to refer to layering shimmers. And I specifically want to do it with this palette because I did kind of design this palette with shade cascade in mind, and I included this regular metallic shimmer over here and this satin shade over here to kind of be the base of the shade cascades. So today I'm actually going to be starting with Fauna all over my lids. So I picked up Fauna on this brush, which is a shader brush, but it's not super flat. I think you can see it's just got a little bit of fluffiness to it, and that is very intentional because usually I apply shimmers first with my finger and then I just switch to a brush to do any detail work. But when I'm doing a shade cascade like this, I actually like to use a brush for everything because I don't want to have like too much eyeshadow all over my lids. I want them to be thin layers so that it doesn't like build up a ton, like too much by the time I'm done with the final shadow. So that was just the one layer, and then I picked up a bit more. And the reason that I also like this brush is it has a little bit of toothiness on like this edge of it, so I'm using this brush itself to kind of like buff it into my crease and kind of blend it upwards, which because this is a satin, it's not super sparkly. So I know some people don't like to have any kind of shimmer in their crease, but I encourage you to at least give this a try if you're open to it, because I feel like it looks really pretty, especially for me because I feel like I have a pretty defined crease when I look up like this since my eyes are very deep set. But if you don't like shimmer in your crease, or if you like to define your crease with a matte or even create a crease, then you can go ahead and use something like Pumi or even any other neutral matte in your collection to blend out Fauna, or to even lay down that matte first and then apply Fauna so that you're not getting any kind of sheen in your crease. But I'm actually just picking up even more of Fauna, this time on more of a detailed blending brush. And well, it's not super detailed, but it's also not super fluffy either. And I'm buffing this out even more while adding a bit more product to just have like a bit of this like haze surrounding my eyes. Like the contrast with my skin tone is not like, there's not a ton of contrast, but there's enough for there to just be some kind of like intrigue when I move my head like this. Now for my lower lash line, I could just pick up more of Fauna and buff it down there, but instead I'm going to go in with a little bit of Pumi to keep things matte down there. I'm just softly buffing it down here for a little bit of haze, not too much. And I am focusing more pigment over here on the outer half and bringing it into Fauna. I love the undertone of Pumi so much. I feel like it's the perfect mid-toned, cool neutral for me with like a little bit of purple in it, which obviously makes me love it even more because I love purple. Now I'm going to go in with the topper shimmer, and I'm going to be using this shade Balance, which I mentioned in my reveal video that this is the most textured, impactful, high shine, wet looking type of shimmer in the entire palette, which can be intimidating, I feel like, for some people. So I feel like doing a shade cascade and layering it over a satin is a way to kind of like tone it down and make it more wearable. Obviously you could just wear this full force if you wanted to, but for like a day-to-day, like if I was, you know, in an office setting or something like that, I feel like this is a way to make it more just like toned down. I wiped off that same brush, then picked up Balance, and I'm taking it on the brush once again because I want a more dispersed layer, which is another thing that I really like about this technique. It does not go on super opaquely, so it's more of this like piecey scatter type of finish. And I will say, you know, you do risk getting a little bit of fallout with this method, especially if you're not using a glitter glue. And I don't like to use a glitter glue because I don't want it to go on super opaquely, but I advise just working in like small thin layers and really like tapping it and pressing it on rather than like swiping it on, because I feel like if you swipe it on and you are like barely touching your lid, it could fall off. Or you can just do your eyes first and your base second and also use a glitter glue to really avoid fallout if that is an issue for you, because I have heard from some of my friends with hooded eyes that they do get fallout from this method. So if that's you, then maybe a glitter glue is best. So I hope you can see that I have this like more scattered sparkle on my lids, and it's not super like shiny and metallic. It's more of like this slow motion twinkle that will be more evident when I do sparkle cam, but also I feel like having it in this like scattered layer that's really sheer helps those multicolored sparkles pop more. I feel like when things are layered on very thickly, you lose a little bit of that effect. Now for the inner corner, to keep things more on the wearable side, I'm actually going to dip into the single shadows and pick up a little bit of the shade Crystallize. And since it's a marble pan, I'm just kind of like tapping my brush in everywhere because I don't want to pick up too much since this is going in my inner corner. Otherwise I would have just like swirled my finger in there or swirled the brush in there, but I just tapped it to get a little bit less pigment. I'm putting this in the inner corner per usual and down here, then sweeping it up like this through the swoop and towards the crease. One of the reasons I didn't want to pick up too much pigment and I wanted to do kind of like a sheer layer of this is because the eyeshadow does have a sheer tan base, and on my skin tone, if I just put like a little bit of this on and sheer it out, that base doesn't really show up in the inner swoop and it doesn't leave too much of like that tan cast. But if you have a more fair skin tone, it could show up, so I just want to note that. So here's the final look. Very simple and quick to do. Obviously it took me longer on camera since I was like explaining things as I go, but in real life, in real time, it barely takes me like 5 minutes, and it's just like a reliable thing for me when I want like a little bit of extra sparkle, but I don't want to be too much. And I really wanted to show you this type of shade cascade because even though I showed you like swatching layering combos in my reveal video, I feel like it's different when you put it on your eyes. So I just really wanted to show you guys. Here is the sparkle cam so you can see the multicolored sparkles in balance as well as the shifts. Even though it's like sheared out, you can still see it shifting and you can see those multicolored sparkles so distinctly, I feel. And I don't know, I just really love this like soft, slow motion twinkle where it's not like super glittery. I mean, it is very sparkly, but it's not like an overt metallic effect. Now for this look, I want to do something that plays on the contrast between cool and warm tones because that is something that I kept in mind while designing this palette, and it's one of my favorite things to do just in general. And I also want to do something where it kind of walks the line between colorful and neutral, at least like I hope that's how it turns out. And I'm going to start by picking up the shade Value. I'm going to be running this shade throughout my crease, and I'm going to be building this up slowly bit by bit until it matches this eye over here. But I think you can tell by looking over at that eye already. I mentioned in my reveal video that the shade Value looks quite deep in the pan, but I feel like it applies and swatches like not quite as deep. But I don't know what it is. In addition to that, when I apply it, I feel like it looks like just like a gray in the pan, but it has a lot of blue/green in the undertone, and I feel like that really pops on my skin tone. I almost feel like I can see that green almost like peeking out around the edges. I also feel like since it's really not that deep on me, I don't need anything to blend this shade out with. I mentioned that I did not include a lot of like lighter shades in this palette, but if you are lighter than me or if you just want something to blend this out with, feel free to like dip into your collection or use your setting powder to blend the edges, whatever you need. I'm also feathering it off at the end over here because I'm going to be doing an eyeshadow wing, so I don't want this edge right here to be super harsh. And then also running just a little bit on my lower lash line for a little bit of smokiness down here. But going back really quickly to what I said about this having a lot of like green blue peeking out around the edges, if I wanted to intensify the coolness of the shade, maybe play up a little bit more of those like blue leaning green tones, I could mix in a little bit of this shade into it, but I could also mix in a little bit of this shade if I wanted to make it more like grungy, murky, like those type of green tones. And I really love like mixing mattes in that way to get custom shades. But for now, I'm going to leave it as is, and I'm going to pick up Decay on an angled brush like this. With Decay, I want to do a wing to match this one, but it is very hard for me to do wings on camera while talking and without holding my mirror like super close to my face, so I'm probably going to speed through this footage and try to capture as much as I can to the best of my ability. The wings aren't perfectly even, but they never are, and I honestly just don't care. What I do love about Decay though is how it's a deep green with a little bit of like desaturation to it, just a touch, so that like it still goes with the more colorful greens, but it also goes with this gray really well, I think. And I love this gray shade so much. Like, it's just a gray, but I think what I love about it is that so many people who have like brown skin, especially like a medium skin tone, have told me over the years that like I've helped them embrace cool tones, or that I make grays look really like good when they're typically like scared of them. And I think it's just about finding the grays and cool tones that work for your skin tone and preferences, and don't go ashy. And that's the thing, is like I think this gray, people look at it in the pan and they're like, that's a pretty deep gray, that looks scary, but that depth is what helps it look gray without being ashy on my skin tone, and I love it so much. Now for the lid, I'm going to pick up the shade Dissonance. I mentioned in my reveal video that I named this shade Dissonance as the counterpart to the shimmer Harmony, because each shade name in this palette has like an opposite, or it's part of a pair with a counterpart, but I didn't say why it's named Dissonant. The reason that I named it Dissonance is because it has a mix of silver and orange sparkles. I don't know, I think you should be able to tell it's like this mix of both of them on a light olive base, but that base is pretty sheer, so I feel like you mostly just get that mix of sparkles, which are, you know, silver is a cool tone and orange is a warm tone, and I really enjoy mixing them. But I feel like, you know, I feel like that's a bit dissonant, because most people usually like cool tones or warm tones, but I like both and I like mixing them, and this shimmer really felt like the epitome of that. But it just has so much dimension and it works together so beautifully. I love it so much. I'm also just like feathering it out over here, filling in kind of any gaps between this matte and the wing. Now I'm going to dip into the matte Chaos, and this I'm running on my lower lash line all the way from inner corner to the outer edge, mixing it in with the mattes that are already laid down over there, and then softening it up over here so it doesn't mess up with the wing too much, or it doesn't mess up the wing. Also really quickly touching up the wing to go over any of the sparkles that got on it. Now for the inner corner, I'm going to use one of my single shadows, also from the collab. This is the shade Radioactive. I'm putting this where I always put my inner corner shimmers, over there, covering up a little bit of Chaos down here, and of course swooping it up like this towards the crease. And this eyeshadow does have quite a pigmented base, so I think especially if you're more fair than me, this is going to show up, like that lime green base is really going to show up on you. But that was kind of intentional on my part, putting this in the inner swoop. I wanted there to be a bit more like warm tones to contrast against the gray crease and the silver and the sparkles. So between like that lime green base and the fiery orange shift, which I wanted to also mirror the orange sparkles in Dissonance. And that's also why I put Chaos on my lower lash line, was just to like make it seem like this shimmer was kind of like a continuation of the lime green down there. Here's the final look with the rest of my makeup on, and just to continue the theme of combining warm and cool tones, I did a warm tone blush and cool tone lips just to keep everything cohesive, and I really like how it turned out. I feel like this is like a look that is like half neutral, half colorful, like an edgy wearable look, if that makes sense. Especially with these lips, I feel like it really takes the look in that direction. Here is Sparkle Cam, so you can see all of those multicolored sparkles that I love so much in the shade Dissonance, which is all over my lid. And I think you can also see that along with the mix of silver and orange, the orange sparkles shift all the way to this like chartreusey almost green at an angle, which I think makes it blend really well with these mattes. But it also has a goldish peachy shift kind of halfway between the two, and I just love how obvious the multicolored sparkles are. They're
so pretty.
So that's 3 looks with Coalescence. Please let me know in the comments which one was your favorite, or if you liked all of them, and if you like the palette even, because it's been like a few days since I put out my reveal video and like the content on Instagram as well. And so I've had some time to sit with all of the comments that you guys left me, which have been so sweet and overwhelming in the best way possible. And I wanted to put out this video with 3 looks to help you get to know the palette a little bit better, maybe help you decide if you want to pick it up. So please do let me know if you're planning to do so. And if you do, which I cannot wait for you guys to get this palette, please do tag me in any looks that, or any content at all that you guys make with this palette. I would love to see. One of the most fulfilling things that has happened in the last few days is now that the PR team has had a few days with the palette, they are starting to put out their own content and looks with it. And it has been such a joy to see, because there's, you know, this creative project of mine that I have now put out into the world that is being received by other creatives who are then taking that project and doing their own thing with it, putting their own spin on looks and content. And it's helping me see the palette in like a whole new light, which then helps me fall in love with it all over again. And it's just like the most magical, special thing. So thank you so much for all of your support. Thank you for watching till the end of the video, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.